Hey folks, Dude here, coming at you of all things, Thursday, March 10th. And I just kind of want to chime in a little bit about, pretty much like smartphone technology and where it's going and where it's been and kind of where we're at now. Case in point, my current daily driver is a Samsung S3. You can see I actually do have, I got a broken screen, I got like longitudinal cracks, and I have the camera's all fuzzed out because it got dropped on the corner. Still works. There's no issues with it. It still works. It's still an awesome phone. The only thing I can say is sometimes it lags a little bit when you have like multiple things going on. If that's the biggest claim to fame it has in terms of stuff it doesn't do right, there's about 99.9999999% the thing just gets dead on perfect. It does occasionally, have like minor little glitches where like an app will crash and you just reboot it. It's not like there's any great drama with the thing. I guess what it is every once in a while it has maybe just a little too much going on. It runs out of RAM. It's got enough ROM, but it runs out of RAM, so things kind of crash and burn, and that's about the worst that ever happens to this thing. By and large, when I got this thing, it was a promotional thing from Verizon where they were like, hey, $100, basically, this, that, and the other thing, take your phone, this, that, So it's like $130, $140, whatever it was, in tax and, activation, all the rest of that stupid stuff they always throw on board. But case in point, you can absolutely find some very, very good deals. One of my nieces needs a phone, or needed a phone, and we got her a S3 Mini. Now, to put it in perspective, this is the S3, this is the S3 Mini. Now, literally, you put the two side by side, and it is literally, it's about 80% of the size of a standard S3. A little bit bigger screen, a little bit bigger body, but for a kid's size hand, it actually fits perfectly. And if you were the adult, you drop this thing in your pocket, man, it's just barely bigger than, case in point, it's barely bigger than a flipping business card, okay? So if you were to obtain one of these things, and we actually went on Amazon and bought this thing, it was like $140. The shipping was just blisteringly fast. We got the thing within a few days. It does have a camera on board. It's got a front camera, back camera. Pretty much what it is, it's a slightly detuned, not quite as good version of the standard S3. Now, case in point, what doesn't this thing do? Not a whole heck of a lot. The best thing it does is it is small, it's compact, and it fits in your pocket. The downside is it does not take the same size battery as the adult size S3. It's a slightly smaller battery, same basic configuration. It's just the height is a little bit less, so it fits better into this little booger right here. Now, that said, the runtime on this is actually very, very good. It's pretty much dead on perfect in terms of operation. The kids really had no issues with it, and we have good service out of it. Finding cases for this thing is not easy, okay? We actually had two opportunities to get cases from Amazon and eBay and what have you. The Chicon cases for these things are pretty much crap. So I want to get something that was kid friendly, but yet, actually does give good operation and what have you and whatnot. But the thing about it is when you go online now, you can find used previous iteration phones that are still kick ass, man. I can recommend an S3 to anybody and they will not feel like they're screwed in any way, shape, and form. By and large, the S3 has been a rock-solid unit. Of that, the previous one that we were using is... Let me find it. Yeah, there we go. Here's the previous one that Mrs. Dude and I were using. And this is the Galaxy, or Stratosphere slider. And this is Mrs. Dude, so I need to pull off, all the texts and stuff that, pretty much are archived and everything. The only downside is when Samsung goes from one generation to the next generation, the batteries change, the housing changes, of course, the chip never changes because that's standard technology. Pretty much you can go to any European country, buy a chip, put it in your phone. Well, for us, the way we do stuff is the chip is inclusive with our carriers. We do stuff a little different than Europe. But in terms of actual size of this thing, the screen size is slightly smaller. The actual body size is slightly smaller. But the thing is, it is thicker. If I pop the Don't Drop Me case that I literally had to put on mine, you can see there's quite a bit of difference in thickness. I put the case on, it comes to literally about the same thickness as the previous, iteration thereof. It comes very close in terms of thickness. Now this one actually has no case on there, but if you're looking around for used phones and you go on eBay or Amazon or these other things, you kind of have to do a little bit of research. iPhones, by and large, are pretty much bulletproof. I mean, everybody uses iPhones. They really don't break a lot, man. The only thing you really do to an iPhone is you wash it or you get it completely wet and it just, gets completely screwed. And by and large, 99.9999999, going to infinitum, the times that people tend to have their phones crap out is almost always broken screen before anything. By and large, the technology on pretty much all these phones is basically bulletproof. If you don't get them wet, you don't overcharge them, or you don't do stupid stuff to them with improper things in the micro USB, they tend to work really, really well. But by and large, in my own personal experiences, I can tell you for a fact, I've had awesome service with Android phones. This one I think is 442 for the OS. The newest one is 444 or 445, which I think is Marshmallow at this point. I think this one was like strawberry shortcake or one of those other jelly bean or whatever the nickname is they give to the OSs at that point in time. But I've had awesome service with these things. So if you guys are looking for a second smartphone or a replacement smartphone or something that you want to just have around as a spare smartphone for a second line of standby or something that else, if you kill it, crush it, and you want to have another one to jump on board, you can pick these guys up fairly cheap. The thing you have to look out for is the really, not badly priced ones on eBay. Every single one of them, if you find like a certain price range, always go from high to low. Never go from low to high. You're going to be looking forever from all these like broken phones everybody's trying to sell off for parts and whatnot. Always do your price searches on eBay from high to low. And then, first 50 or so are just ridiculous. Buy one new, $700. Buy one new, $560. Buy one new, blah, 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 in the box, $750. It's like, you guys are freaking insane. They just basically, they're shooting for the moon, hoping some dumbass buys the thing. But by and large, in terms of getting a used S3 or any other iteration, iPhone, previous models, and all the rest of these things, they are all around. You just simply have to find it by being a good customer. You have to basically use that thing in what you know as look at something, and if it doesn't pass a sniff check, you don't buy it. By and large, this little booger right here, the S3 Mini, was just, we actually went to the Verizon store, and they were like, oh yeah, well, we don't sell that anymore. So I looked at Mrs. Dude. Mrs. Dude looked at me. I cracked a grin. I was like, let's look online. So we literally found the thing online for the price that they would never be able to touch in the stores because it's really not their stores. If you go into like a Verizon store, it's going to be either two things. It's either going to be a true dedicated Verizon store or it's going to be a Verizon seller. Right. It's not going to be an actual Verizon store. It's going to be somebody who sells Verizon. Big difference. All right, folks, I'm going to break up on this one. Eat good, considering as always, you know it, you love it. Smartphone goodness. Well, be a smart customer. Don't be a stupid customer when you buy a smartphone. See you guys.